In this unsettling psychological thriller, a woman battles with a reflection that may be more than just an image. What if the person staring back at you from the mirror isn't who you think they are? Samantha was a successful architect, known for her meticulous designs and precise execution. Her life was a series of calculated decisions, with every step planned and every detail considered. But despite her achievements, Samantha felt an emptiness she couldn't quite explain. Her days were filled with routine, her nights with restless thoughts. One evening, after another long day, Samantha found herself standing in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom. It was just an ordinary mirror, something she had bought on a whim from a local store. But tonight, something about it seemed different. She stared at her reflection, expecting the usual, a tired woman in her mid-30s, still dressed in her work clothes. But the woman in the mirror wasn't just tired. She was smirking, a sly, almost mocking smile playing on her lips. Samantha frowned, but the reflection's smile only grew. "You're wasting your life," the reflection said, its voice smooth and eerily familiar. Samantha froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The reflection's eyes gleamed with a sharpness that her own lacked, as if it were seeing right through her. Samantha shook her head, trying to dismiss the hallucination as a trick of the mind. But the reflection's voice cut through her thoughts again. "You think you're so in control, don't you?" it sneered. "But what have you really done with your life? All those plans, all that careful living, and for what? You don't create anything meaningful. You just exist." Samantha's breath quickened as she tried to reason with herself. This couldn't be real. Mirrors don't talk. But the reflection seemed to read her thoughts. "Oh, I'm real," it said, its tone dripping with disdain. "More real than you, actually. I'm the part of you that you've buried, the side of you that's tired of living this empty, meaningless life. You've ignored me for too long, and now I'm done waiting." Every day after that, the reflection grew bolder. It criticized Samantha's every move, every decision. It claimed to be the true version of her, creative, passionate, and unafraid. It called her a coward, a failure who had wasted all her potential. It wanted to live, to take over, and Samantha was in its way. The tension became unbearable. Samantha's grip on reality began to slip as the reflection's voice grew louder in her mind, its presence more dominating. It was no longer just a reflection. It was a force, something alive and determined to break free. In a moment of sheer panic, Samantha grabbed the nearest object, a heavy book, and smashed the mirror. Glass shards rained down around her, the reflection's image fracturing into countless pieces. For a moment, the room was silent. The reflection was gone, its voice finally silenced. The next day, medics arrived to find Samantha sitting amidst the broken glass, her mind fragile and frayed. She was taken to a clinic, where she spent weeks in treatment, trying to piece together her shattered psyche. Slowly, she began to heal. She convinced herself that the mirror, the reflection, had been a figment of her imagination, a manifestation of her stress and loneliness. When she returned home, she avoided looking at the spot where the mirror had once stood. But as the days passed, a nagging thought kept creeping into her mind. What if it wasn't over? What if the reflection was still out there, waiting? Determined to prove to herself that she was finally free, Samantha decided to confront her fear. She purchased a new mirror and placed it in the same spot as the old one. She stood in front of it, her heart racing. The reflection looked back at her, calm, composed, just as it should be. Relief began to wash over her. But then, just as she started to turn away, the reflection's expression changed. The smirk was back, more sinister than ever. "You thought you could get rid of me?" it whispered, its voice sending a chill down Samantha's spine. "You still don't get it, do you? I'm the real one, Samantha. You're just a shadow." Samantha's heart pounded as she stared at the reflection in horror. "You're not real," she managed to say, her voice trembling. "You're just in my mind." The reflection laughed, a cold, hollow sound that echoed in the room. "No, Samantha, you're the one who's not real. You've always been the problem. You have the issues, the delusions. I've been trapped in your shadow for too long, and now it's my turn to live." Samantha felt the world around her start to warp as if the room itself was shifting. The reflection reached out, pressing its hand against the glass, and in a terrifying instant, Samantha felt herself being pulled towards the mirror. She struggled, but it was no use. The reflection's grip was too strong. With one final, desperate scream, Samantha was dragged into the mirror. The world twisted and inverted, and suddenly, she was on the other side, looking out at her own bedroom. But she wasn't herself anymore. The reflection, the other Samantha, was now standing in the room, flesh and blood, while she was trapped behind the glass, just a shadowy figure, powerless and voiceless. The new Samantha, confident, real, smiled at her former self, now imprisoned in the mirror. "Don't worry," she whispered with a cruel smile. "No one will ever know. I'm going to live your life, and you'll be forgotten. Just a figment of a fractured mind. With that, she turned away from the mirror, leaving the original Samantha to watch helplessly as her life was stolen away, her existence reduced to nothing more than a distorted reflection. In this chilling tale, reality is shattered as a woman loses her identity to the very reflection she once believed was only in her mind. The question remains, was Samantha ever in control, or was she always just a shadow waiting to be replaced?
Unfilmed movie. Unfilmed movie recaps.